Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream. Make him the cutest that I've ever seen. Give him two lips like roses and clover, and tell him that his lonesome nights are over. Sandman, I'm so alone, don't have nobody to call my own. Please turn on your magic beam. Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream.
Good evening and welcome to Nox Mente. Tonight's guest is Seriah Azkath. Sariah has been studying the unknown for around 30 years and is currently working on a book about it. His studies will span from UFO phenomena, ghosts, and psychic abilities, to comparative religion and the occult, to lost civilizations and alternative history, to consciousness and reality. Sariah is a true skeptic, not a debunker. He questions everything and doesn't dismiss anything completely out of hand. He's been in radio for over 20 years, hosting a heavy metal-based show called The Last Exit for the Lost, which follows Where Did the Road Go on WVBR in New York. Where Did the Road Go aims to go deeper than your average fringe-aimed talk show. They ask hard questions without being overly confrontational. They support the work of their guests. They want to bring their ideas and research as wide as possible an audience as possible, while viewing it from as many directions as possible. You can find Sariah on the web at www.wheredidtheroadgo.com, just wheredidtheroadgo.com rather. And welcome, Sariah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
It's great to have you on.
So this is a show about dreams, right?
Yes.
All about dreams.
Is it a problem if I've never had any?
Ever?
No, actually, we get into, and you're hilarious. But we have had shows where we didn't actually talk about anyone's personal dreams. We just talked about the idea of dreams.
That makes sense. No, I have a fairly rich dream life, so that's fine.
Which is excellent. I'm definitely looking forward to digging into that. So tell us a little bit about your upbringing, things that
shaped your mind in your youth.
Yeah, things that stick out from your early years. Were you religious? The landscape in general that you that kind of formed you.
So the thing about my youth is I don't remember a lot of it. It's kind of like bits and pieces here and there. And that happened after sort of a awakening issue where I got the name Sariah. Everything before that kind of got very spotty.
Interesting.
So I have some memories, and there are certain things that definitely stand out. I mean, when you ask that, I had to write all this out for the book. My family was never religious, but they considered themselves Christian. So, they were one of those, you're supposed to be Christian, so they're Christian. But, we never went to church or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
When I was really young, our dog died, and I didn't understand what happened because I had never come across really that type of a concept at that age. And I remember one of the few things I remember clearly is I'm asking my mother, what's death? What's this? And she's like, well, close your eyes and plug your ears. And it's like that forever.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And that terrified me beyond
that is
belief.
Scary.
So I had sort of like this utter fear of death for a long time. And it made me, just like the little bit of religion I had, like I was always afraid that if I didn't do things just right, God was going to kill me.
Oh, no.
And, I didn't want that because I didn't want to be like that, and that blind, deaf, sort of non-existence forever, and it's like, and I'm sure she meant well. It's not like she was trying to scare me. I think it's just the way she expressed it was wrong,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That is scary, though. I mean, especially in a young, impressionable mind.
Yeah. And so that held on for quite a while. And eventually it just, like, when it went away, it went away. And I started exploring all kinds of stuff. That's when I got into studying different religions and why people believe what they do. And, started studying Crowley and LaVey and stuff like that. Because like once that barrier was gone, then it was like, all right, I want to see what I haven't been looking at because I've been afraid.
Yes.
So
did you at some point ever try psychedelics?
No, I've never done a drug in my life other than, like medicine.
Yeah. And what sign are you?
Well, I'm Virgo, but I also fit with Taurus, which is the sign I was in when the name was given to me and that whole waking up thing happened. I probably relate more to the Taurus than the Virgo, actually.
I do love the name Sariah, by the way. It's it I don't know actually what its context is or its meaning, but there's something about it that seems
We spoke in head. Um, and when I did research on it,
yeah, I was thinking Mariah.
Well, actually, as Sariah, as Sariah with an extra letter, like I think it's SERIAIH or something like that, is in the Book of Mormon.
Oh,
it means Prince of the Lord.
interesting.
But aside from that, the name doesn't seem to have existed since biblical times until it was given to me, and literally since the time it was given to me to now, it's become a slightly more common name.
That's kind of odd. I mean, so it's kind of like you brought it into the collective somehow.
Yeah, or brought it back. I mean, I know a few people named their kids after me, just if nothing else, because they like the name.
Yeah, it's a great name. It also brings to mind the seraphim for some reason.
Oh, sure.
To me,
yeah.
All that kind of stuff. What do you know what your blood type is? That it was like a little side question we had somehow pinned here at some point. Let's get right into the dreams. So give us an idea of your if you have a general type of dream, that's like you don't. Okay, so do you dream in black and white or color?
I would say color
predominant.
I guess I never really think about it. A lot of times I have sleep paralysis occasionally. I have lucid dreams. I have had dreams where I've been given information, and I can usually pick those out at this point. And detailed information that didn't come to pass for like 10 years.
Yes, nice. I have those as well. I love that. So, I was just I like to get kind of nail down a little bit of the general stuff and then get into like the lucid and OBE stuff. So it sounds like you're predominant to read words and glyphs in dreams.
Yes.
And so
well, one of the interesting things that happens, I'm diabetic and I have type 1 diabetes. So occasionally when I go low while I'm sleeping, which can kill you. I mean, if your blood sugar drops too low while you're sleeping, you will die.
I didn't know
that. Sometimes my dreams will wake me up because like I might look at a wall and it'll say your blood sugar's low, wake up.
Oh, wow.
Or the dream will start almost skipping and repeating and becoming very annoying. And then suddenly I get very lucid and go, I'm low, wake up,
So it's almost like my experience with that is like when I need to urinate or something and I'll be, there's a toilet or something around needing to do that.
Yeah. When that happens to me, I'm usually looking for a bathroom, but can't find one. Like
yes.
In the middle of the dream, suddenly I'm like, I just need to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. And why can't I find a bathroom?
Yeah. Oh my God. I remember giving into it so many times when I was young, though, trying to learn how to be potty trained. Oh, this feels so good. That's interesting about the diabetes though in there. That's excellent that it plays a role and also that you are able to translate it.
Oh yeah, it's very clear.
Do you so in this, do you experience things that might move into night terrors and nightmares?
Yeah, usually in the sleep paralysis stuff. I don't have nightmares. What most people would consider nightmares, I find interesting. One of the only things in waking or dreaming, the only times I ever get kind of freaked out is during like sleep paralysis type events.
Could you give us an example?
Yeah. So this was an interesting one because I couldn't get out of it exactly. I dreamed I was sleeping next to a friend of mine. And then I woke up. And when I woke up, she wasn't there. And I went, right. Okay. And I realized, yeah, of course not. She's not here. And I looked over at the clock, and the clock didn't have numbers. It just had symbols on it. They were like little upside down L's. And I went, what's wrong with the clock? And I went, I'm still asleep, aren't
Yes.
I? And suddenly a hand reached up between my legs through the bed and grabbed my thigh. And it was like a piece of steel, and I could not budge it. And it was just gripping my thigh, and it hurt. And I'm like, damn it. And then I'm like, okay, wake up. And so then I woke up. And I'm like, okay. And but it creeped me out to no end. Like I had chills and everything else. And I said, all right, okay. And I looked over at the clock, and there were a bunch of upside down L's. And I'm like, oh, come on.
Oh, wow.
And this repeated probably 5 or 6 times or so. I don't remember exactly now because it was a while ago, but it repeated a number of times before I finally really woke up.
That is kind of scary. So it was like that whole onion experience. And also, I've never heard the hand thing, which brought the imagery from Bram Stoker's Dracula with the female vampires manifesting in the bed. That's interesting. What do you think the symbolism or the take on the hand was?
I didn't really take much out of it at all, really. It's not the first time I've had hands grip me through the bed.
Really?
Yeah.
So are they usually associated with the paralysis state or?
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Huh. That's when I experience sleep paralysis, I literally can't move, and I'm like either screaming or trying so hard to speak or move something, and so I'm stuck. Mm-hmm. I've never had hands or anything else except for experiencing maybe a presence around me. I think of that as kind of a nightmarish experience. How often do you have sleep paralysis?
It depends. It's usually a lot of times I find when I take naps is the most likely, like when I'm normally awake, but I'm so tired, I go take a nap is the most likely time I'm going to have sleep paralysis.
Wow, that's interesting. And do you think that any of it so it's not necessarily super common?
No.
Okay. All right. I was going to then maybe tie that into possibly the diabetes. I don't know.
No, there's no connection between the two as far as I can tell.
So when you're moving through dreams, is there ever a trigger for lucidity? Are you able to control that? What is lucidity like for you in dreams?
A lot of times I try not to make them lucid because I want to see what they're trying to tell me. Once you've made the dream lucid, you kind of have control and you lose some of that ability.
Yes.
Aren't you lucid? Wouldn't you think that you'd need to be lucid to make that choice?
No, because I've kind of tried to. I was so good at making myself lucid by doing things like looking at my hands, because all you need to do is one intentional thing and it becomes lucid.
Right.
And so looking at my hands was the thing. So a lot of times I try not, like I've sort of trained myself not to.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
But cool. Then something will happen, like I'll die in the dream, and I'll be like, well, that's no good. And so I'll just stop it and rewind it and go, what if I do this? And suddenly I realize, okay, I'm dreaming.
Yes.
But awesome.
So usually it's something like that where I need to change the direction a little bit.
Gotcha.
So, and then one of the things for you was, as you said, looking at your hands. Did you have other little?
No, that was the main one. That was the one someone suggested, and that worked for me. So.
Yeah, that's my personal favorite as well. Although I do try to find a reflective surface, but that seems to be more tedious often. Although when it happens, it's surprising to point yourself out, because I never look as I do here, so it's always interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen myself in a mirror in a dream.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
No, I have. I take that back. No, I definitely have. I had a recurring dream for a long time where I had gotten up and I would go into the bathroom and my hair would be completely white. And I would look into the mirror and my eyes had like cracks of gold running through them. And then I would wake up.
Oh, wow.
And that repeated over and over again until I read Andrew Collins from the Ashes of Angels, and he was talking about the Nephilim and the Anunnaki and such having that type of a visage. And I thought, okay, what does that mean?
So when you were looking at your eyes in the mirror with the cracks of gold, what was that experience? So is this also lucid? Were you lucid?
No.
So this is just your standard dream experience where it's moving you through symbols.
Yep.
Interesting. That's very interesting. How long did that go on?
Oh, probably for a few years, just at random. And the dream would just pop up and I'd be like, and after I woke up, I'd be like, all right, that dream again. What does that mean? I can't figure it out.
Did you say you were RH negative?
I don't know what I am.
Oh, okay.
Do you have lots of other reoccurring dreams?
No. I've had some reoccurring themes, but not reoccurring dreams like that, where that was almost the same dream over and over.
Interesting.
Occasionally now I will go in and look, the same type of thing where I go into the bathroom and I look in the mirror and I look much thinner and in better shape than I am now.
So that's all in dreams.
Yes.
So back onto the reoccurring element. So when you have reoccurring themes, give us an idea of some of these themes.
I think the main one generally revolves around my dad. My dad died about 11 years ago. I didn't generally get along with him. We got along probably the best when I was a little kid, and then when he got cancer, because it mellowed him out a lot. And I suspect he was probably bipolar. And I don't think he was happy in general. I think he was one of those guys who played by the rules and expected rewards and didn't get rewards. And I think it made him pretty miserable. And so I'll have these reoccurring dreams where he comes back to life. So he had a hobby shop and I took over his hobby shop and I took over the house and all this other stuff. And I would have these dreams where he's back to life with no good explanation. And he's just like, nope, this is all mine. I'm changing everything back, after I've been doing all this stuff for 10 years,
Oh, man.
So that in one form or another, sometimes he's really hostile. Sometimes he's not hostile at all. He's just like, what are you talking about? This is my hobby shop. I threw all your stuff out,
And so these dreams with your father, I really like to talk about people that have passed, although we haven't a lot in this show.
Have you seen his ghost in the shop?
No.
Okay.
Do you even believe in that?
I don't know if I believe or not believe in it. I believe it's certainly possible. I've never experienced the ghost of a person, but I've experienced pets.
So like their presence or?
Yes. Yeah. Very, very distinctly sometimes.
Oh, nice. Well, that's tangent.
And usually with some kind of verification as well, where someone else noticed it too.
Huh. So with your father in the dream, the first time you saw him, encountered him in a dream state, how did that go? Do you recall that?
No, I have no idea.
So was there anything emotional with any of the experiences?
No, just annoyance.
Yeah, that's what I'm picking up. So.
Like I said, he and I were not close. We a lot of times just butted heads because my mentality has always been to do what I want and just make it work. And he was always the follow the rules type guy. And that did not, we didn't connect very well because of that.
So what made these dreams stop?
Oh, they haven't stopped. They still pop up for a while.
Okay.
It just kind of annoys me because I'm like, yeah, those again. All right.
Do you still run the store?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I feel like even when I first, took over the store, I was almost afraid to change things too much because it was his store. Like it wasn't a conscious thing. It was he was just so possessive of things. Like his stuff was his stuff. You didn't touch his stuff. And so here I am taking over the store and I'm kind of like, wait, you know what? I can do whatever I want. It's my shop now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think partially the dreams, reflected that sort of weird attitude of, like, not wanting to change things.
Definitely. I could see that. So maybe if you fight your father in the dream, he'll go away.
Did that in a couple of them. And yeah, there really wasn't much to it.
Cool. It's just an annoying a Klingon.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm glad I don't have annoying dead relatives popping in. I can't even think of any actually that pop in except for my mother.
I don't think it's him. I think it's me. I think it's my subconscious trying to let me know that no, this stuff is yours. You can do what you want.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that is a part I like to get to in a bit. Like, what do you think's going on? What about like experience? So obviously, you encounter language and sound, correct? I mean,
Oh yeah.
Anything else as far as the senses? Are they as visceral as this, or more so?
About the same, I would say. Depends on the dream, I've heard music in dreams that I wish I could replicate in this world.
Yes.
Me too.
Yes. Have you ever had this feedback that you were a sleepwalker or talk in your sleep?
I will mumble apparently in my sleep occasionally.
But it's not anything.
Yeah, nothing major.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna get back into the lucidity. So when you go lucid, can you give us some examples of how that goes? So with lucidity, oftentimes you're able to obviously have control, and in that control, it seems like a lot of people tend to do things that they can't in this experience, like float around or fly and all that. What are your lucid dreams? Give us an example of how a couple have gone.
See, I don't remember any off the top of my head, so it's hard for me to say. A lot of times, like I said, it's usually I didn't like the way a dream was going, so I stopped it. And then I went back and I did something different with it. It's rarely like, oh, I want to fly or anything like that. I mean, that stuff happens in my dreams anyway. So it's usually more it's usually just me more changing the direction, realizing I'm dreaming and then changing the direction of things.
That's interesting. So you just have no desire to push further into that kind of awakening within the dream experience?
Not generally, no. I mean, because my dreams are so bizarre to begin with that I thoroughly enjoy them most of the time. I pulled a few up, and I pulled one up, which was an old one, but it amused the hell out of me. I had totally forgotten this. This was probably around 95. I had written this one down, and it says, there's a creature. It has many tentacles, and the tentacles can cast the illusion of being people. When I realized the truth, I could see the creature for what it is. It's huge, and I name it Bob. Others want it destroyed. They plant an explosive, and I warn the creature, which infuriates those trying to destroy it.
Oh my God, I love it.
It's a great dream.
Exactly.
That's seriously awesome.
That. I'm glad I wrote it down.
Did you so you've pulled up others? Give us some other dreams.
Oh, let's see. What else did I pull up here?
Bob.
Yeah. If you've got a big tentacled creature, of course its name's going to be Bob.
Oh man, that's hilarious. The tentacles were people. That's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it has some weird sort of like esotericness to it.
Yeah, it feels that. And were there 8 tentacles?
It didn't say. And I don't remember the dream. I came across it while I was doing research for my book, going through all my encounters and everything else. And I was like, oh my God, that's great.
Wow. Yeah. This is the golden aspect of actually recording this stuff, because they do fade away.
Oh yeah. So this one was from around late August. Mid-August. It says August 16th. First of all, I got woken up from Kundalini. Like it hurt and just woke me up out of a dead sleep, which hardly ever happens. And then afterwards, I was able to sleep just fine, but I was cold, and this was midsummer. and I'm generally never cold. And so the Kundalini must have turned my system cold for whatever reason. It's usually hot, but every once in a while it does that. And I said I was with Greg Bishop, and we were in this big open area with like pillars and stuff that seemed ancient. And we examined various things, and I understood what they were. Around us were patches of growing balls of darkness. And there were other people there, but I didn't say who they were, but the whole thing felt very Lovecraftian. Then there was a guy we were talking to, and I realized he had gills. And I asked him about them, and he got upset and threatened us. I said I was pretty sure I was still with Greg, and this guy walked away, and I went up to him again, and I threatened him, telling him I asked to let him know that I knew he had gills and that he had better watch himself. And he said, okay, all right then. And then I woke up and went back to sleep and continued the dream. And it said we were in a pyramid-like place, again with Greg, but this time John Anthony West was there as well. And we were looking at ancient structures, and I was finding all their secrets. Part of it was in a house, and at one point, the bathroom was being used as a ritual bath.
Oh, wow.
The Rock was there, as in the wrestler actor, and he was running everything. And I was filled with various knowledge about all the stuff that was going on, how to move doors, where secret passages were, etc. And John Anthony West was helping me decode all the stuff. And then I woke up again very, very cold.
What do you think that the temperature change was about within your body?
I think it was the Kundalini. If you're familiar with Kundalini, it can make you either very, very hot or very, very cold.
Yeah, I'm familiar. It's interesting, tied in with that dream, and then having switched,
And then a few days later, I had one that I said we were in some weird place. There were some gods there, and they were dicks. There was lava, seemed a little bit like it could have been Hawaii, and there were masks, and we tried to use them to contain the gods, and they laughed at us and removed the masks that we were trying to use to contain them and said they would eat one of us now. I ran outside and dug up another mask and put it on, and they were really upset and said, "You know what that'll do?" And I said, "Yep." And they said, "You know what I can do to you now?" Or I said, "You know what I can do to you now?" And they agreed and decided to leave us alone.
Jeez.
That reminds me of the Brady Bunch episode where they go to Hawaii.
Oh, yeah. Wouldn't even have made that connection, but yes.
I just popped in my head. I'm thinking Brady Bunch. They put on masks and got that spider
Hawaii.
thing. Yep. And with the death of David Cassidy, it kind of all ties together.
David Cassidy died?
Yeah, 67.
I didn't hear that. I guess I'm so disconnected. Wow, today?
He used to tell me all the time that he thought he loved me. No, it was yesterday.
What generation are you from, Sariah?
I was born in the early 70s.
So Gen X.
Sure.
That's millennial, isn't it? No, it's Gen X.
No, early 70s is Generation X.
Well, here's a recent one I had about my dad about a year ago. This one was not him taking things over. I had a dream that I had walked into the kitchen and he was hiding around the corner. And as I saw him, he turned and grabbed me by the front of my shirt, lifted me and pushed me backwards, all the while saying how much he hated me. Oh, I wasn't really sure what to do, but I was afraid he was going to break the window because he was pushing me into the window that goes out onto the porch. And then we were on the porch and I was afraid he was going to break the door to the porch. And then I said, I wondered if telling him I loved him would stop him.
And did you?
No, that's where I woke up.
Wow. Well, that's rather profound. How did you feel about that?
It made sense. I mean, the fact that I was more concerned about the house than, the fact that he was trying to hurt me makes sense to me.
Right. But also the fact that he's causing all this trouble and you thinking that possibly telling him you loved him would stop him from being rambling like that.
Right. I think it's a logical thing for me to think. I don't know if I necessarily felt that way.
Mm-hmm. No,
But
it
was,
sounds as calculated to me.
Yeah.
Like, how can I stop this?
A lot of my dreams lay out almost like movies, which I thoroughly enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Because I wake up and sometimes write them down like I got to do something with this,
Yeah, yeah.
Like this one from January says there was some kind of satanic puzzles and a kid was going to figure them out and he was really into it and I thought they were too dangerous, so I took them away from him. Then I started figuring them out and I'm not sure if they were dangerous, but weird stuff started happening, and that was the end of it.
Wait, when was that from? When was that from?
January 10th
of this year.
Yes.
Are you familiar with the Bruno Bruges?
Oh, Billy Brujo, yeah.
No. Bruno Bruges in Brazil? Is it Brazil or Portugal? Okay, so this kid.
Is this the kid that had all the symbols all over his room?
Yeah, the satanic symbols.
Okay.
Yeah. And then he disappeared?
Yeah.
Was that in January?
No, I don't believe so. No, I believe it was before January.
That would be interesting.
He's got
I did see the article on that.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's exactly what he had. What it looked like. They look more like goetic symbols, but or Solomonic.
Yeah.
It would have been interesting though if you could have maybe gone lucid and then tried to solve the puzzle.
Well, I think I saw. I don't think I remembered the whole thing when I wrote it down. I think I was solving the puzzles. I just couldn't remember all the details when I wrote it down. Also, sometimes I wake up and I think I'll remember that later, and then it's gone.
Yeah,
or I get just the vague idea around it. Back, I don't even know when this was. It had to be early 90s. I had this experience where I felt like I was in another reality. And there were these two very large beings telling me all this very important stuff. And it was really profound. And I woke up and I was like, whoa, I need to write this down. And then I said, there is absolutely no way I'm going to forget this. This was some of the most profound things I've ever heard in my life. And so I went back to sleep. And when I woke up, I didn't have a faintest idea what it was.
Yeah, that's so often the case. It's why it's really important to get it out.
So I think you might want to put that in the prophetic dream category. He didn't disappear until April.
Ah, okay.
Oh, wow.
If it's even connected, I mean.
Well, this leads me into that whole aspect, which you mentioned a little bit earlier. So dreams that actually come to play somehow, the symbols of the dream and how they can be worked out here. How often do you experience that?
Not super often, every once in a while. And I've gotten to the point where I realize, okay, this is information I'm being given, but it's couched in dream imagery. So It's like, okay, what do I have to pick out here that makes sense, And it's like, okay. And so I write the whole thing down, but then afterwards I go, I think these are the important things to look for. And they usually are at this point.
Do you have an example?
No, not. I'm trying to think of one, but I don't know where the record of it is. But I was walking with a friend of mine, and then he kind of veered off, and then I went to this old radio station I used to go to, and I was talking to someone there, and there were a bunch of pieces of information in that thing, and then I was really close friends with this girl by the end of the dream. And there were certain details about her. And I woke up and I said, okay, this is someone I'm going to meet. And when I met her, I knew. And she was actually openly hostile to me the first time I met her. And I thought, that was the girl from the dream that I was supposed to be close friends with. And she was just openly hostile to me. I'm like, all right, whatever. And then 6 months later, she was, she just started talking to me. And we ended up becoming friends. But the person who was in the beginning of the dream that veered off had just a passing, knew who she was, had done, met her a couple of times. So I was like, okay, so there's that connection. It was vague, but there. And the conversations that happened at that radio station were all subtle little things, like talking about air conditioning and heating issues and stuff like that, were all laid out in there. So when I looked back without realizing those things were there, I was like, holy crap, all these conversations happened.
That's pretty astounding. So when in other times, so I'm going to talk about deja vu a little bit in conjunction with this. So like say you've having a deja vu and have you been able to pin any of them back to a dream that you weren't aware of at the time? Like that you didn't record?
Oh yeah.
This happened.
No, not that I didn't record, but that I didn't remember.
Yes. That's what I meant.
Yeah. So I'll go back and I'll suddenly be like, whoa, that was so-and-so, you know?
That's fantastic. This happens for me, and out of all the people I've talked to about dreams over the years, I've only encountered a couple other people that can say that. Aaron of Rufus Cat is one. So when that happens, and you're like, and you're pushing through, and you remember that this was a dream you had forgotten, is there anything else about the quality of that experience that's memorable?
Well, usually it's a pretty significant experience to begin with. Like if I'm dreaming about someone or something, it's usually something that's going to be significant.
Yeah, I agree. There's something so extra about that deja vu connection that I every time it happens, I just want to prolong it. It's almost like an orgasm in a weird way, because I'm trying to push into it further, and
right.
So I'm kind of thrilled that you actually experience it like that. So in the dreaming true thing, has anything been prophetic that seemed like that was bigger than just your personal life? So like events that may have come to pass.
Right. Not that I can think of. Yeah, nothing that comes to mind off the top of my head. Usually it's personal stuff.
Yeah. Okay, and then on this prophetic line here, in just dream time, have you had events that seemed kind of globally oriented but didn't play out, but they seemed like they were more like you were honing into maybe a solar flare or some Earth stuff?
Not really. I've had a number of dreams of like post-apocalyptic type of stuff.
Do you remember any of them that you can share?
No, not off the top of my head. I'd have to look them up. Actually, there's another connection here with Andrew Collins' work. I used to have dreams of being in underground cities, and they were like, they were old looking, like not like a city nowadays. And I had no idea these things actually existed until I read one of Andrew's books. It might have been the same book. It might have been Ashes of Angels. And he mentioned Cappadocia. And I looked it up. And as soon as I saw the images, I went, that's the damn city I've been dreaming about.
Oh, wow.
And that's 8,000 years old.
That is so great. Were
there any white-haired guys with gold crack eyes
there?
Eyes? No, there weren't. Just normal people.
But did you take that as a cue, though, Sariah, to dig into it?
I took it as a cue that I'm somehow connected to that, or that information is important to me. Like Moses was said to have white hair and glowing eyes that could light up the room. And I didn't know that, And so when I said that, I'm like, okay, so what's the significance here? Like, what is this trying to tell me? But I still don't know for sure, but I have apparently picked out at least the accurate connection because the dream stopped. And I find when I have repeated dreams, if I can figure out what it's trying to tell me, I stop having the dream.
Yes.
I'm starting to get the impression that a lot of these types of dreams are ancestral memories.
It could be. They could be past life memories. They could be ancestral memories. Who knows?
But I think it's all connected through DNA. It somehow stores these experiences or whatever, or however they manifest in dreams. But yeah, it's very cool.
I had one from October, I guess just a couple months ago, or last month, October 12th. And all I wrote down was multidimensional physics, Russian guy, he pushes a button, the ultimate tomato, and weird after effects.
Oh, wow. Wow. That seems rather ominous, actually.
Oh, no, I don't think it was an ominous dream. It was just, I think the tomato was like really, really good, but it had some weird effects on anyone who ate it.
Tobacco. It's a Simpsons joke.
Ah.
There was a Simpsons episode where
hard, Jerry.
they planted tobacco and tomatoes and they got mixed up.
Oh, right. Okay. All right.
So it would have weird effects on people.
What other weird dreams did you write down that you've got up?
That's all I had up.
This last one, I think, is my favorite.
Really? With just the mentions?
I liked Bob pretty much. That was a good one too.
I know. I mean, it's hard. These have all been good, but there's something about the last one that kind of, I don't know.
There's a story on wheretheroadgo.com, if you look in the fiction section, called In the Depths, and that was basically expanded from a dream. And if I can remember, I wish I could find, I don't know where I have the actual dream written down, but I was laying on the side of this lake, Seneca Lake, actually. I knew what lake it was. I knew what beach I was laying on. And it was perfectly calm, and I could see like the full moon reflecting in the lake. And suddenly I got really, really weak and couldn't move. And while I was laying there, this thing started forming under the water, and it looked like a bunch of lines, but almost shaped like Loch Ness Monster type of head, you know. But it was in like weird folded lines, and it slowly raised up out of the water. And I was looking at it going, is that real? And finally I was able to move my hand, and I reached out to touch it, and it just kind of dissipated and disappeared. But the feeling in that dream was absolutely amazing.
Why? What was the quality there?
Just weird. Like I can't describe what it felt like. It just felt amazing.
So it was super. So when you say that, though, it makes me think lucid again because of the depth of experience that happens within lucidity. But
yeah, the way you feel like a lucid dream.
So do you think this was possibly another reality that you were temporarily in, or another level of, I don't know, bodily input, mental input?
I think it was just showing me something. I don't know, but I ended up writing that story because of it.
That's great. I'm going to have to check that story out. What about astral projection, Sariah?
I don't. The only time I tried to do astral projection was we had this cliff on the end of this Potter's Field we used to hang out at, and it overlooked Seneca Lake again, and we had been up there the night before. And I saw one of my friends walk over to one of the trees, and it looked like he was writing something. And he had a tendency to write certain things. And so the next day I said, okay, I'm feeling like I can possibly do this. I'm going to try and project. And and when I did it, I found myself there. And I thought, okay, am I actually here? Or, am I just imagining I'm here? Because I wasn't trying to project anywhere in particular. I was just trying to lift out of my body.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I know how I can tell. I'll go look and see what he wrote on the tree. And the whole time I'm thinking, but I'm probably going to know what he wrote on the tree because there's only a couple things he would write. And I get over to the tree and there's nothing on the tree. And so I said, okay, I'm just imagining this. And I shook myself out of it. And so like I was talking to him later in the day, and I said, hey, remember when you were writing on the tree? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, what'd you write? He's like, I didn't write anything. I changed my mind.
Wow. Oh, that's some validation.
Yeah, sort of.
It seems kind of like that's sort of kind of.
Kind of, but I feel like I can't call it complete validation because it could have just been my mind not being creative enough to put something on the tree.
True, but
wouldn't then you have influenced him to do that?
Maybe.
And is that even possible? I have another question. Follow up to this is, how different was that experience from a lucid dream?
It felt completely different. One of the things I noticed, and possibly because I had studied, near-death experiences, is I had sort of that 360 vision where I could just sense everything around me, and it felt like I was just floating. So with a lucid dream, I feel like I'm me, and I'm seeing in 3 dimensions and so on and so forth.
Gotcha. So more.
When you shook yourself out, did you come back into your body at that time, or did you slide into a dream? So
no,
you did.
I came back into my body.
And that's the only time you astral projected?
That I tried to intentionally, yeah. I mean, it's hard to say. It's hard to say when you're dreaming if you know what's going on there, but
yeah, the lines are blurry actually between dreaming and lucidity, and then actual OBEs. I find for myself.
In your
Huh?
NDE research, did you find any correlations between that and lucid dreaming or astral projection?
No, not really.
Okay.
I mean, a little bit because people find themselves outside their body, but there's a lot more going on in the near-death experience.
Yeah. Okay.
I had this dream I pulled up. There's a band that I'm friends with called One Eyed Doll, and they're this two-piece kind of punk metal band from down in Austin, kind of quirky. And I wrote, "Time starts slipping. We're somewhere with One-Eyed Doll and a whole lot of other people, and we start to realize that time isn't working right. At some point, I realize it has to do with the number of people around, and that the more people that are around, the slower time goes. I compare it to being in a car going up a slippery hill, in that the more weight, the slower the car goes up the hill. We start to devise experiments talking about sending one person out for a little bit to see how much time they experience versus the rest of us."
Oh, that's interesting. I'm chewing on that.
Like I said, I tend to like my dreams.
Well, I like the almost physics quality of that one.
Yeah. But relating to a dream, which is odd.
Right. It is that's a juicy one. So what do you think dreams are?
Oh, I think there are a lot of different things. I mean, some of them I'm absolutely sure are just subconscious dumps of information that you've taken in over the day.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are giving you information. There was one I'm looking for actually that happened at a record store that I thought was pretty interesting, but I haven't been able to find it yet. So you can get information. They can be precognitive. They can be just something to relax you. Or inspire you. I don't think there's any one thing.
So in this, walk with me here. So What do you think death is?
I don't think we understand life, so it's hard to understand death.
We don't understand dreams either, so it's all speculative. What do you think?
I think that whatever happens when we die, we're already there. That this is just a portion of us that we're experiencing in this sort of time-space model.
This is life.
Yes.
Like a projection type of thing?
Right, like playing a video game.
Yeah.
Literally like playing a video game where you just forgot you're in the game. And I mean, I'm sure any of us who have played games know that feeling where you're so entrenched in the game, you forget you're sitting in a room.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Second life, anyway.
John Wolfe said we're already dead. Well, I think it's since we're in an inverted reality, we're already alive. Dead, and here we go become alive. Whatever. No, I totally agree with the game aspect that this is something like that.
Yeah. I think it's a projection of some sort that we need. I don't think it's pointless.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think makes us feel so bound to the masses in general, because we're holding down this reality, right? Where we got to pay bills and all that crap. So what makes this the focal point? Why are we so focused here?
Because I think there's stuff to create here. I think this is, I've always been very fond of the Seth material for various reasons. And he always talked about us being here to learn to create, how to create reality, how to create new things. And I feel like instead of, I think there's some value to like that sort of Buddhist nirvana unity type of an idea. But I think that the universe wants to be more than it is. However you want to define that, I think we're here to make it more than the sum of its parts.
Are we connected to each other, to everything?
I'm sure at some point we're connected to each other, definitely.
If the Big Bang was true, then we must be.
Fair enough. I'm not really a believer in the Big Bang.
Me neither.
The theory of
gravity. Yeah, no, I agree. I'm just saying, yeah, I think everything's connected to.
But I think we are. I think there, like I said, I think there's a point. I don't think that we're just here because, and most things seem to have multiple purposes.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. Multiple meanings too.
So do you think that dream time in the common sense and not in the Aboriginal Australian sense, which
right.
I love.
So do I.
Do you think there is that could act as some sort of a connecting factor or portal to access the other that we are apparently blind to here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or even other dimensions.
Yeah. I think that's a very open state of mind when we're in a dream state, and I mean, and you get scientists who just want to dismiss it. Oh, it's just the brain doing these things. It's like, yeah, that doesn't explain a lot of dreams, though.
No.
It explains some of them, certainly. Like I said, if you work, in a store and you have a dream that you're working in that store, well, that's because you do it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just recorded over and over.
Yeah, outside of the daily file stuff. Where there's all the other great states.
Yeah.
Where are you at on consciousness being local versus non-local?
I think it's both.
Yeah.
I think there's a non-local version of our consciousness, and there's a local version that is I don't think we're. I think we're a part of our body. I think we create our body. So I think there's sort of a separated consciousness here, but it's still connected to a deeper consciousness.
Like a higher self type of thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think there's multiple levels. I don't think it's just two things. I think there's multiple levels of consciousness. And I think this reality is primarily made out of consciousness.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the point where if science can figure that out, and figure out how to do something with that, then things will get really interesting.
If they're allowed to.
Yeah. Yeah. I did find that dream I was looking for.
Oh, please share.
This was back August 25th, but I don't know what year. Let me see here.
It's all the same fucking year, man.
2016. So it was August 25th, 2016. Was in a weird warehouse of magic and music. I was climbing up in the back. It was set up in like scaffolds and stuff. And I was climbing up in the back and looking at records, looking at the last few letters. I remember looking at Voivod records and leaving and looking at some cool items on top of the shelves. There's actually a store in Rochester here called Record Archive that's kind of like this, where they have tons of records and other music, and they have just weird little things on all the shelves on top of it.
Oh, I love places like that.
Yeah, and so that I think that's kind of where that sort of frame came from. And I said, but there were no prices, and I figured they were probably expensive. I walked back to this weird entrance, and they stopped me. And I don't know who it was that stopped me, but it was almost like a beam of light came down on me, and I couldn't leave.
Oh.
And I was told, you have to tell us the 6 worst things to ever happen to you in order to leave. And I sat there, and I went, I don't know. I don't know if I can come up with 6 really bad things that have happened to me. And I mentioned one particular breakup. I said, losing her was pretty bad. And I said, but other than that, I don't really know. And then I had this vision of like waking up because my mother had run into my room and was crying and told me that my dad had just died. And I said, okay, I guess. And then I woke up and I went, that's not what happened. Like that wasn't, like when my dad died, I found him.
But it wasn't on your list.
Yeah, and it definitely wasn't on my list. I mean, so I was kind of like, okay, I don't know why that was shown to me. But here's the other thing. Through that entire dream, there was something underneath it, almost like a voice talking really, really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know it was there until near the end, because it suddenly stopped. And everything felt very hollow all of a sudden.
What do you think that voice was?
I think it was information. I think it was a guardian spirit, and I think it was giving me information.
There's the first thing that struck me with this particular dream was the whole gates aspect, 6 things to get out, right? It's like the phenomena going into the underworld, all that. And then the weird tie-in with death, which is your father, a symbol of, at least. And this was since 2016, so he was dead. And now this voice coming through, like a transmission behind the scenes. This is fascinating.
But you're leaving out the whole Warehouse 13 aspect.
Is that's a show, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I've never seen it, but I'm aware that it is a show. It's like a paranormal show, right?
Sort of,
yeah. It's more like what goes on in the warehouse at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
It was a bunch of objects with supernatural power that they were supposed to protect.
Okay.
I got this one from August 11th of 2016. There was someone from another dimension that is coming into ours, and that wasn't allowed to happen. They would be sent back, and memory of them would be erased. They and others were trying to make it so that somebody would remember. It was some kind of battle, and it had something to do with metal. And in the end, the person from the other dimension helped win. When they went back, no one remembered, but there were subtle hints here and there.
This feels like so many of these are feeling like downloads to me.
I think there's a difference between the downloads where I'm downloaded information and these things that just seem to have some depth to them. Or
What's
at least
the difference?
Interesting ideas. The downloads are more like with that voice speaking underneath it.
Yeah. So this one with that you just shared with us, what do you think? What do you think that was about then?
I have no idea. I just thought it was an interesting dream.
Well, the whole interdimensional thing too. I mean, it's like, because I just immediately just pull out symbols and try to not go beyond the symbols. And interdimensional always to me is a symbol of like portal energy, which is a dream or a memory accessing another state.
I don't know where this dream is, but the basic gist of this one I had, which I kind of want to turn into a story somehow, is that myself and I think there were 2 girls, and we were in this house, and we couldn't leave. We somehow needed help to leave, or you needed 2 people in order for one person to leave, or something like that. I'd have to find the dream to find it. But as soon as you left, you totally forgot the house existed. So like we were like, okay, who can we get out there that's going to remember and be able to come back and help, like try and figure out what's going on, because we had been there forever, but no time had passed. And so I can't remember if I went out or someone else went out, and as soon as they got out, they forgot, but then they came wandering back towards that part of the road or whatever at some point in the future, and was like, wait a minute, there's something I'm forgetting. And they started remembering, and then they were able to pull us out.
Oh, that's kind of juicy. It sounds a little bit like No End House from Channel Zero's.
Yeah. It was long before that.
Yeah, but that concept is very juicy. I'm sniffing a theme here, Sariah. There's lots of puzzles.
The escape
and
theme?
Yes.
Well, and yeah, right. And things in order to get out. So puzzles and gates. Very interesting.
I got a couple of the short ones here. People are stuck in a house and things keep repeating. Every time I die, it starts over again, but their previous selves leave some trace. They can leave the house and people come in. I said, people come in, what stuff is piling up? I don't know what that means. And they start making little changes that are affecting the whole. And slowly they break away from it all. And then I said it reminded me of the movie Blood Punch.
Yeah, I was just thinking that myself.
Well, there we go. And then there was this one that says, big monsters in piles of rugs, giants, video game supermarket. And then I wrote so much detail there. And then I said, I think it stood out at the time. I remember fighting giant monsters in piles of rugs vaguely. Video game and supermarket, not so sure what that meant.
Oh, that's kind of, that one's funny.
Yeah, yeah.
That imagery is vivid.
I have legitimately funny dreams where I wake up laughing.
I do too.
Do you experience others in dreams, where they're pushing back? So it's not you. It's not really your unconscious. It's other entities or beings or whatever.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Often?
I wouldn't say often. No.
Do you have any examples?
No, not a one.
What do you think that is when you encounter something
I think you're just encountering something.
Yeah. Do you think it could be another dreamer, or?
It's possible. It could also be trying to communicate with you.
How are we to know if these things are, benign or have nefarious?
Their intent.
What's their intention? You don't know if it's part of your consciousness or if it's an external consciousness. Yeah. It's that whole, what is the other kind of question that you guys have explored on your show. And
I generally assume they're not hostile, even when they seem hostile, because even the most hostile things I've dealt with have turned out with positive results by facing them.
That's generally a trend,
That's classic.
This is more of a classic thing. I just realized I had this, until I woke up, until I had that waking up experience and was given the name, I would have this dream of this giant black thing chasing me, and it would terrify me. And I had it most of my life. And when I had that waking up experience, I realized that giant black thing was me, and that I had been running from myself this whole time.
Oh, that's good. Your shadow.
So maybe the escape dreams, puzzle dreams, are you saying you need expansion?
No, maybe. It seems like they're figuring things out less than escaping. Like the one with that record store magic shop type of thing. I wasn't trying to escape. I was just done, and I was just getting to leave. And they were like, "Wait, you have to answer this question." And then I'm like, "I don't know how to answer that question." But it wasn't like, "Oh my God, I got to get out of here."
No, I didn't mean it was a desperate escape. It just seemed like all the dreams had that common element of you were in something that was being prolonged. Your stay was being prolonged. How's that?
Sure. I got this one, which I said this was a wild dream of some kind, with some kind of something infesting the land. We're in the woods and suddenly giant dinosaurs are manifesting and chasing people. Also, some other kind of electro creatures when we start getting towards houses. I don't remember all of it clearly, but we were trying to hide from the things in the ruins of some old houses.
That's interesting. The electro creatures makes me think of the smart grid. When was that, Sariah?
That was, it looks like June 2016.
Oh, shit. I mean, that's really, that could be timely, tied into, smart meters and stuff. But I don't know. It could be a lot of things. But that just seems interesting to me.
See, those are the type of dreams I tend to write down. I mean, some of the dreams are just boring, and I wake up and I remember it and I'm like, I don't want to write that one down.
Yeah. I have those too. I'm like, it's funny. The ones that seem the most mundane actually will stick with you longer sometimes.
Yeah.
That's definitely true.
I had this one. This was May 2016. That said someone had invaded the area and they were taking people hostage. They were like a vicious biker gang, and I was doing what I could to help people and hide them and get things over on these guys. Near the end, they disappeared, and I realized they had gone into the house. The wind picked up, and I realized it was a tornado. And then for some reason, I capitalized this. I said the guy I had hit on top of the milk barn was no longer there.
Oh my God.
And then it said they had been holding people in the main part of the barn, and that was all I had.
Wow, you're good.
You put him on the roof and he blew away.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's what that meant.
That's hilarious.
You're a shining example of, recording the dreams. So many people don't do it. I am pretty good about it. I just get up and tie into GarageBand mostly. But this is a good example because they fade away. And if nothing else, for an artist or the creative set, they can be fodder for something, a story,
absolutely.
a song, a poem.
Absolutely. And I've used them for things like that.
And then if things come to pass and there's some sort of line synchronicity or sync up with the symbols, that's an extra juicy thing, the whole prophetic aspect.
I've had a number of dreams too, because I just found one of them where I wrote, forgetting things existed or happened, forgot an entire second relationship with a person, forgot they came back, and like it was just like I will have these dreams where like I'll have someone in the dream and I'll be like, oh, I forgot about them.
Yes.
And then when I wake up, I realize that's because they didn't exist. And I think, was I picking up on another timeline? Was that just me, my dream fooling me? Because it really felt like I knew that person, and even once I wake up, I'm feeling like, wait, that didn't actually, I don't know where it is. This one amused me. I had this dream that me and a bunch of my friends had gone off to, like, we were remembering this. I wasn't dreaming this happened. We were talking about this time that we went off to another town to see some girls or something, and we didn't tell any of our parents. We were teenagers, and they freaked out because we just didn't come home, and they drove out and found us, and then, they were all furious and stuff. And I woke up going, oh man, that was so weird when that happened. And then after a few moments, I go, wait a minute. That never happened. It really feels like that happened now, and that never happened.
That I don't know what you call that, and I've been wanting to dig deeper into that because I have similar experiences, especially with a house, and then some lover that I always feel like I'm going back to a life in a weird way, that I'm living like this, and then I forget about it, except for I've recorded it.
Yeah, or like it's another reality. It's a could have been.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. When I say another life, that's what I mean. It's like something else that's going on, but it feels so real. And there's this, in that liminal state. I'm still in that moment of, it's the suspension of disbeliefs there, right? It's like, oh yeah, this is happening, and then I come back into this life.
Yeah.
Or this state, this being, this experience that we're having.
This is something else that occasionally happens. I will occasionally switch genders in dreams, and I don't know how common that is.
You're the first person I've heard express that.
Really? So this one says, I dreamed that I could fly. I could also move very fast along the ground. I was exploring somewhere, and I found this spiral staircase that someone once showed me. I think they had rode a skateboard down the bar besides it. Then I was a woman that people were summoning for help. I may have worked in a lab. At some point, I realized that it was me, and I was not a woman, and I became me again. I was trying to defeat some bad guys, and I would fly up and lob bricks at them. They couldn't see me from where I was, and my aim was pretty good. There was a lot more that I don't remember. The part with the bricks reminded me of the video game The Darkness that I had been playing.
Oh, interesting.
But there have been numerous dreams where I find myself in a different gender or a different person. I'm a completely different person. It's not even just gender. Like, I'm literally somebody else.
Now I've heard a lot of that. I think I've heard a lot of that. Maybe I've heard other people switch gender, but it's not stuck out at all. I don't hear, I can't think of anyone saying that to me. The thing that strikes me on this stream, this is fascinating. So people were summoning you in her mode, but it sounds like almost like you were being summoned like a spirit. The spirit flies up, and you have these powers we don't have here, and you're throwing bricks. That's very witchy.
Why can't we play spirits in other realities?
Sure.
I mean,
exactly. That's what I'm saying.
So this one I really liked, and I plan on turning it into some kind of short story. This was February 2016, I think. It said, there's a mirror at the end of a large room. The mirror is huge and it takes up the whole wall. I break a piece of it off, and behind it is a black void, and there's some type of intelligence there. I believe I've done this before, whether it be in another dream or this one, or just that I know I've done it before. I've been warned about the intelligence and that it's not friendly, yet
Oh, shit.
it will do what I ask it to do. It sends me stuff from the other side. Eventually, I ask it to send me the broken pieces of the mirror so I can close it back up. There are others with me. There's word of this dream before, but I don't remember what it, there's word of this dream before, but I don't remember what it was.
Holy shit. That's intense.
That would make a great Lovecraftian story.
That's like our Black Mirror, that series. That is super juicy and scary. And I mean, it plays into all the heavy occult stuff with what's behind the blackness behind the mirror that is sentient.
Yeah. And like I said, I set that aside and went, I'm turning this either into a short film or a short story or something, because that was awesome.
Yeah, you do need to work that into something, because that is seriously awesome and unnerving at the same time, even though there's something about the way, maybe it's just your voice or your candor, I don't know, that doesn't play into the potential of how unnerving that is.
Yeah, well, it wasn't unnerving to me. That's why.
Yeah, and I think that's coming across, but to me, I'm like,
I had.
She doesn't know your objectivity level.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
I had a dream, and I don't remember the whole dream, but I remember someone had lost their phone from our second story window, and it went into a dark part of the yard. I said, okay, I'll go get you. And I grabbed my big spotlight, and I walked out, and as I got closer, the spotlight just went out. And I'm like, what is going on with the light? And then I saw kind of a weird flash of light, and the next thing I know, I'm sitting in the kitchen. And I'm like, okay, what just happened? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I just went out to get the flashlight. And they're like, oh, I have no idea. You were just here. And I'm like,
damn.
Do I want to go out and do that again? Because I'm kind of curious what happened. But lights going out is one of the things. Like, I'm not at all afraid of the dark. I like the dark, but I
me too.
have dreams where I can't get lights on. You turn lights on and they just go back off, or they all short out or something. There's always something there. It's like, what's going on? Let me turn this light on. Why won't the light go on? And I think that's more of a classic, typical thing that most people will have a dream of at some point, because you have that sort of something in there that you can't, the unknown type of a factor.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it's primal, really.
Yeah.
I had tons of dreams that were just light after light after light is the dead bulbs. There's no light anywhere. That whole thing. Yeah, it's horrible.
This one came from December 30th, 2015. I said, I wish I could show what I dreamed because it was beautiful. It was a ritual by some tribe in what seemed to be Russia. It was in the winter, and we had gone there to meet someone, and I ended up taking pictures of this ritual and then video. It was something that just kept expanding. I know that in the dream, it didn't start out this way, but by the end, it was this massive ritual with all these people on the side of a hill with small fires in the snow, and they were moving up and down the hill. That were like the hill. That was like the hill in the back of my property on the that we have. And then I saw that people were running, and I saw a missile coming down from the sky. But luckily, they weren't nuclear.
Luckily,
yeah. Is this the bomb shelter one? Hang on. Yeah, this one was weird because it was almost like a time travel type of thing. I said, I'm on some kind of military base, and again, was trying to escape. Usually when I'm trying to escape, it seems to be from some sort of authority. Mm-hmm. There was some kind of bomb shelter, and myself and this other girl hid in it, and it seems like a nuclear war happened. At some point, I realized I could go back in time, and I would go back and change the situation with the bomb shelter. Once we got there too early, and the generals and officers came in, and they were partying with their families, and we had to hide. But eventually, I learned how to save more and more people in the shelter by going back in time and collecting more people. A short time after the war or whatever happened, we would come out, we would find that everything was okay, and the military people didn't remember who they were anymore, and the world was peaceful. I finally had enough people in the shelter that I felt things were done, and I just stayed outside because I wasn't needed anymore.
And you didn't
Damn,
put anyone
Sariah.
on the roof.
No one was on the roof on that one.
You're like a sci-fi well.
Yes. That's why I love my dreams, because I love sci-fi, and I read this stuff and I'm like, man, that was awesome.
Seriously, I'm loving it.
Even
I
that
know.
would make a great story.
In other circles, you might have been, you might be considered some sort of tied into a program of some sort.
What do you mean?
No, I don't know. MK Ultra or something.
No, secret space program, not necessarily.
Or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Something.
There was a dream, and I don't know where it is. But I remember, like, it actually gave me the worst feeling I'd ever experienced, both either waking or sleeping, where we were in this house. I wish I could pull it up, but I have no idea where it was. We were in this house, and it was supposed to be haunted. And we were kind of investigating. It was me and this girl and this little kid. And the kid kept getting freaked out. And when we went toward the stairway that went to the second or third level, whatever it was, the kid's like, don't go up there. Don't go up there. And I'm like, why? He's like, just don't. It's the worst thing you'll ever, like he's just freaking out. And so I'm like, no, I'm going up. And I got halfway up the stairs. And like, that feeling of doom that you get? If you amplified that by like 100, that's what it felt like. Like It literally paralyzed me on the stairs. I was like, oh my God. And then he's, him and the girl are going, come down, come back down. I'm like, nope, I am going through this. And I walked the rest of the way up, and then like things changed and we were on the third floor, but it's like every time you opened a door, it opened into a different room. So if you opened the door and then shut it and opened it again, it would be a different room in there. Like everything was
interesting.
Kind of weird. But like that experience, like I'm going, when I woke up, I'm like, I have never felt like that in my entire life.
That fear and then the weirdness of the door.
It was right here. Mm-hmm. It's literally right in front of me. Damn it. I'll read it to you because it probably does a better job of remembering than I did. January 18th, 2016, exploring some kind of haunted house. It almost seemed like a cavern at first, but then turned into a house. On the second floor, there was a stairway going up, and one of the two people I was with was a sensitive. He did not want to go up. He was a young boy, and there was a woman there taping everything. I started to go up and found out why he didn't want to go up. Halfway up, the feeling was terrible. I forced myself up the stairs anyway, and then he and the girl followed. We started to look around. I felt it was weird, and when I went into one of the rooms, the doors shut. When I opened the doors back up, they were gone, the two people I was with. I realized I moved dimensions, and I shut the doors again and opened it back up, and they were there. At that point, I thought maybe we should leave, but I kind of wanted to check the other rooms. I felt that was a warning, though. There was more I'm unclear on. It just started feeling like the upstairs of my house. And I felt I needed to remove the technology that was there. But yeah, that feeling was just intensely bad.
What technology was there? I wonder.
Apparently it was an Intellivision.
An Intellivision?
Yep.
B-29 bomber.
I had to remember. That's what it says. I had to remove the Intellivision. I should have just left that in.
Oh man.
Oh man, that's hilarious.
That is a devilish video game.
I love that system.
I do too.
I occasionally, for that and the Commodore 64, I occasionally have dreams where I'm in some computer shop and there are all these games I've never heard of for the systems. And I'm like, oh my God, what's this? Oh, I need to buy that, and I need to buy that, and I need to buy that.
I definitely like this. I like your character, Sariah. I like that you are fearless and push forward. It's really juicy, actually.
Until something reaches through my bed and grabs my legs, then there's some fear.
You started us off with that. I'm not having that at all. That is super creepy and
not
wrong.
Not allowed.
Oh, here's one of the ones that was like the one I was talking about. When it starts off with my dad is chasing me with a gun, and then we shift to something else. We're rearranging the living room, and then upstairs I knock a shopping cart out of the window. I go downstairs and outside to get the cart. I look over and something whistles to me. I decide not to go over with just my phone lights Nothing should be there. I grab the big light from the car and start to walk over. It goes out. I run back annoyed that it's dead. I'm locked out of the house. I freak out a little bit. I go to the porch, and my dad eventually lets me in. I expect him to be upset, but he's not. Then I find out I'm missing an hour. That explains why the light went out.
Ooh wee.
So that's what it was. It wasn't a phone. It was a shopping cart.
Have you ever had have you ever seen a UFO or anything?
Yes,
like that?
I've seen a few UFOs.
Okay. So what do you think about extraterrestrial biological entities and all that?
I don't believe there's anything here with us like that.
And so what do you think you saw?
The UFO, I don't know what I saw, but what I saw were lights. And even though it looked like a very large craft, when I looked very closely at it, all I could see was lights.
Okay.
So I don't know if there was physically something there other than the lights.
They just outlined a shape, which in your mind appears, you consider it as a shape.
Yeah. Right. It looked like it was like, I want to say two saucers, sort of, but with a space in between them. Like, so the open sides facing each other with a space in between and lights racing each other, all primary colors right through the middle of it. And then like kind of cycling through the other side again. But I suspect that all of this stuff ties into spiritual experiences. Not that it doesn't have a physical component, because it definitely does, but sometimes only one person sees this stuff and sometimes many people see this stuff. And I think it's different levels and different ways it protrudes into our reality.
I agree.
You've even talked
How old were you when you saw that?
That was around 2000.
Okay.
I've heard you tell the story about being out in the woods with your friends and having one friend share an experience with you, but the second one didn't.
Yes, that was at that cliff again in overlooking Seneca Lake by the Potter's Field, and the tree was shaking, and we were like, my one friend's freaking out, like, what the hell's shaking that tree? And I said, I don't know. I'll go look on the other side. And I walk down the trail and I look across the other side. And as soon as I do, the tree stops shaking and there's nothing there, because I thought it was a deer or something just running its horns against the tree, or threatening us because it had, its mate with it or something. And I walk back and the tree starts shaking again, because this was a decent sized tree. I mean, it wasn't 50 feet tall, but it was probably about 20 feet tall, and it was very bushy. And it starts shaking again. And finally, we realized that our other friend wasn't seeing or hearing any of the stuff we were hearing. And then both of them got freaked out.
I love that story.
So
it just makes me think, well, who's tuned into what,
Well, that's another aspect. This is all kind of like our after.
Yeah, I know. I've got questions for when you're ready.
We moved into it. Yeah. So let's move into the questions from the chat.
Okay.
All right. I've got 2 questions. First one's from John Wolf, and he asks,
Hi, John.
I don't think he's here now, or he might be watching. Okay, here it is. Do you have a woman that reoccurs in your dreams? And then in parentheses says the anima.
I've definitely had that anima experience. Yes.
Cool.
But I've had different beings recur in my dreams. So not just that one. So
it's not strictly women or a woman. Cool.
Well, he's referring to the anima for sure. So.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely been. I seem to connect better with women than with men a lot of times. So a lot of my spiritual encounters seem to be with women, and when they're with male entities, they're usually much harsher. They're usually the ones I have to stand up to, and maybe that is because partially because of the problems I had with my dad. So that's what I stand up to. So they project themselves as male.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's a lot archetypal. It's a lot of archetypal energy in there too. I think would shape those.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Very cool. All right, and Raksha asks a question: have you ever crossed over from a sleeping dream into a waking dream state? I.e., smooth transition into walking and talking to others in the physical, but still in a dream state.
I've had dream imagery hang on. quite often, actually, which gets me confused. Like, there's been some really weird things. Like, I woke up one day and everything was blue. Like, it looked like there was a blue filter, and I was like, "What is going on? Why is everything blue?" And I turned on all the lights, and I went to the other room, and everything was blue. And I'm like, "What is wrong with my eyes? Why is everything blue?" And then it just stopped. And I said, "Okay, maybe that was sort of a hypnagogic sort of thing that held on after a dream, you know?"
Yeah, like a lingering hallucination or something. That's crazy.
Yeah, so I've had that type of thing happen. I don't think I've ever continued conversations upon waking up.
Okay. That's all we have.
That's a good question.
That's all the questions we have. I'm sorry.
Wow. 2 questions for Sariah.
That's because he did such a great job.
I know, he's brought the most dreams to the table.
Oh, totally. Totally. All right. Well, since no one's got any more questions, that's.
It looks like, is there a reoccurring places?
Oh, here's one more. Recurring places, and what do you typically feel when there?
My house is a recurring place, definitely. The places I spend a lot of times, like my house, the radio station, things like that, tend to be recurring places. But also that cliff, that Potter's Field area, even years after I had ever been there, that place pops up now and again because it had such a profound effect on me. It has such a weird energy. Also, the graveyard in Ithaca that also has weird energy tends to pop up quite a bit.
I have a question about your house. Does it morph?
In the dreams?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's also a third level in the dreams that is usually like it shifts back and forth. Like the whole thing just kind of shifts.
Yeah. I experienced that with what I call my home there. It's like, it's always my home, but it's definitely shifts. The third level is interesting. I get that too.
You know, it's almost like the wind blows and the whole frame shifts to one side.
That's
and it's both unnerving, but then I realize at some point, oh no, this is fine.
Yes. I in a way, it seems like this is appropriate.
Yeah. I think the last time I had that dream, my dad was in it, and he said, "Oh, fix this."
Alrighty. Well, it's 3 questions. We wrap it up for an hour and a half. So thank you everyone for watching.
We did an hour and a half.
We did. Time flies when you're having a blast.
Oh, I don't look. That's weird. We tried to do an hour. Thank you everyone in the chat.
So and next week we'll be joined by Red Pill Junkie. So please join us. He's also interesting dude to talk to. And that's all. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sariah.
Thank you, Sariah.
You're very welcome.
Oh, hey,
Stay on the line.
Talk about your stuff. Sorry, before you go.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sure. Where did the road go? Got there. Let me try and talk again.
And all these things are in the show notes, by the way.
Yeah, wheredidtheroadgo.com is the main thing. That's the talk show on this type of stuff. Paranormal consciousness, whatever you want to call it. And that is, it's totally free to go back through the entire archive. There's hundreds of shows at this point. And if you're interested in metal, you can check out my music show, which is thelastexit.org.
Excellent.
Very good. Thank you very much. Thank you again for joining us, everyone, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye.